We are The Meltdown, and we're here with yet another retro trailer reaction. This series looking to reintroduce and put the spotlight on some notable movies from previous years. All of the choices featured within this series have been hand-selected by our Meltdown crew. Some of these selections include some of us completing first-time watches, and some of these we've seen countless times over the years. Join us throughout all of Season 1 for a look at the retro trailers and the discussions that follow. Today's entry is 1982's The Thing, starring Kurt Russell and directed by iconic genre filmmaker John Carpenter. Carpenter was asked by the AV Club about the early reaction to The Thing following its release in 1982, saying, quote, "Oh lordy lordy, it was hated by, oddly, the fans. They thought I had raped a classic. It was the most hated movie of all time. Some people were saying, the fans, what the hell is going on here?" He also stated, quote, "If The Thing had been a hit, my career would have been different. I wouldn't have had to make the choices that I made, but I needed a job. I'm not saying I hate the movies I did. I loved making Christine and Starman and Big Trouble in Little China, all those films, but my career would have been different." So with that, let me introduce our panel. I am Meltdown host Tim Melton. That is my co-host, Mr. John Lunsford.
Or am I John Thing?
Ooh.
You don't know.
Oh, gosh.
We'll see.
No one can be trusted. Our producer is Tyler Johns.
What's up, you guys?
And finally, we introduce to you our beloved Meltdown contributor, Rockstar, who you see daily on The Next Round.
I haven't had a pineapple in a while.
Tyler, there's no way to properly transition out of that statement. This film was your selection. Why did you pick John Carpenter's The Thing to be put into our Dune Part 2 popcorn bucket?
It's one of the most suspenseful movies I've ever watched. It just fills you with the sense of paranoia and distrust. Anybody could be the thing or a thing, and I love everybody's performance in it, from Kurt Russell to Wilford Brimley to Keith David. It's just fantastic.
With that setup, and no more hesitation, I'd like to introduce now the retro trailer for The Thing.
Mayday. Mayday. Anyone hear me? Over. This is U.S. Station 31. You read me? Found something in the ice. We need some help down here. Can anybody hear me? We found something. We found something. We found something.
12 men have just discovered something. For 100,000 years, it was buried in the snow and ice. Now it has found a place to live. Inside. Where no one can see it, or hear it, or feel it.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can be one of those things!
'So there we have it. There's the trailer. From this point on, we'll be including spoilers for The Thing in our discussion points. So if you'd like to watch the movie first and come back to us, feel free to pause this video now. As we saw in parts of the trailer there, which is dark and ominous, definitely, in remote Antarctica, a group of American research scientists are disturbed at their base camp by a helicopter shooting at a sled dog. When they take in the dog, it brutally attacks both human beings and canines in the camp, and they discover that the beast can assume the shape of its victims. A resourceful helicopter pilot and the camp doctor lead the camp crew in a desperate, gory battle against the vicious creature before it picks them all off, one by one. There's the synopsis. So, John, considering you hate horror movies, what was your take on The Thing?
I like Halloween. Outside of that, John Carpenter does nothing for me. I can respect what John Carpenter did overall in his career with the movies he created back in the day. But yeah, this was not it for me.
That's it?
There's a lot of movies, and Tim, you know this, that I'll go back and be like, hey, I don't really like it, but I can respect what it was for the time. And I would say that for Halloween. Like, I'm not rushing to watch Halloween ever, really, but like I totally respect everything about it and what was done with limited budget, all that kind of stuff. I watched this and I'm like, what on earth am I watching? What are y'all making me watch with this stupid project when we've already watched two really good movies and then I have to watch this instead?
So if we're going back to the Cineplex at 1982, you're watching E.T. for a fourth time compared to The Thing, which came out 2 weeks later.
I'm going to see Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner came out the same day too.
Did.
So I'm seeing that because I've already seen E.T. probably 5 times at that point. And then I'm going to see E.T. if I really have an alien, really need an alien kick. But no, this is...
Okay, so you're seeing this thing as a horror movie, but as a sci-fi movie, is it something that works for you in any capacity?
No.
Okay. Well, there we have it. John
The Thing
hates
just
The
happens to
Thing.
be an alien. They see a ship at the beginning and it's like, oh, so it's an alien. That's about all the sci-fi that really exists in this.
All right. Selling it real hard. Rockstar, what are some of the elements that you liked and disliked about The Thing?
I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan. I love him. I actually love him in Big Trouble in Little China as Jack Burton. The movie we should all watch if you haven't seen it. Lopan's one of the most infuriating and devious villains out there. But I watched it a long time ago, but rewatching it took me 3 sit-downs to watch this movie. The first scene of the helicopter and the dog, first off, I know it's a science fiction horror movie, but the dog's running in Antarctica for how long, and it's outrunning a helicopter, and the guy is a terrible shot.
Stormtrooper
Terrible
level.
shot. He even has sticks of dynamite that's just not working, and then you find out that bullets don't do anything. But then, of course, you're going to adopt the dog.
He blew up his own helicopter, Rocky.
And-
That's
yeah.
all you need to know.
And there's nothing more 80s than the dude who was on, I don't know his name, I guess he's the cook or whatever. He was he's a character in Punky Brewster, but he's on roller skates.
Yeah.
Just has nothing to do with the movie, but he's on roller skates. So I was like, that's 1980s to a point. I like the movie. It is so gory, though. The special effects are amazing, how they did that with no CGI or whatever to do that, how painstakingly all the details and everything, but it's just so... That's the stuff I don't like, where it's just like so over-the-top grotesque. The chest scene, which is amazing, but still it's just like so over-the-top gross and everything. But I love the little walking head scene as a spider. It's a good film. It's a good concept of being taken over by a thing and the suspicion of who's a thing and who's not. I did read a bunch of stuff about how the ending is open-ended and the interpretation of who is a thing or not.
If that problem happened up here at Disrupt Media, who do you think would be the most panicked of the entire staff trying to deal with this new issue that has found its way here to our home base?
It wouldn't be Jim at all. He would probably say, "Go ahead. I'm probably not it, but y'all go ahead and kill me. Y'all go ahead. I will sacrifice
the one
for
that
the
sacrificed
altruism."
himself. He would just go
I will
ahead
do it
and take
first.
himself out.
Go ahead. You're thinking about doing it anyway, so just go ahead and get it over with. But overall, it was a good film. I liked it.
Turns out he's the only one that hasn't been infected.
I'll get into some things here in which I liked. I love the opening title card that has sort of the light peering through the darkness of just making itself proclaiming this is a movie called The Thing, and you cannot deny that. The score for this, I thought that may be one thing, the ominous score that stood out. Maybe John would give it some level of it added to the creepiness level, but nothing seems
Well,
to.
that's part of what John Carpenter has done well.
Right.
I mean, including in movies like Halloween, but that can't save a whole bad movie.
I got it. The setting and the scenery, it is a very remote location that creates a definite amount of paranoia. It has an extremely serious tone, and I respect it for that. The fact that it is something that takes its subject matter very seriously, minus the chess match and the roller skates that have been profiled there by Rockstar.
But they said, read some reviews and stuff like that, people's interpretation of that was a a clue of foreshadowing of what with Kurt Russell just throwing the drink into to just kill the machine
Right.
after beating him in chess. And it's the same thing when he makes what's his name Childs take a swig of whatever he was drinking. Like it's foreshadowing. So it's obvious that Childs was a thing and not Kurt Russell.
I love that this has led to an all-time great film debate following the final scene of the film about whether or not Childs is the thing. I can see arguments on both sides, and I think that has been something that has stood the test of time. I love the point of view shot of the running down the hallway. It's a very brief shot in the movie, but it, to me, screams Carpenter because the first taste we get of Halloween, a movie that I obviously care so much about, is a point of view shot throughout that first opening scene, maybe one of the most impressively shot scenes ever in that opening scene of Halloween.
I think the shooter was not an impressive shot. He could not hit the
No,
dog.
he was
No,
not.
not at all.
And that's another that's one of my nitpicks. We'll get into it in just a second. The practical effects that have been brought up here. Carpenter didn't want a guy in a suit. He wanted a real creature, and you feel that in the film. He turned to Robin R. Botten, who was in charge of the monster effects and had worked with Carpenter on The Fog, later worked on projects like RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct 7, and Fight Club. And he became obsessed with making this his life's mission to make sure that all the practical effects were so good. He slept there on the lot. He did everything he had to do to make sure that he gave this film his all. And it really comes across on the screen. Kurt Russell is cool as hell in this movie. He really is. And the dog acting is right up there with anything else that may be brought up.
Homeward Bound.
I know that you've talked about dog acting here recently, John, with a film that was nominated for Best Picture in Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
But the dog, it was a half dog, half wolf, the animal that was cast in this, and it really works
uncredited.
well.
Even though it was in future movies, it was uncredited in this one I saw.
Incredible
It was a
in
thing.
this. I love the
One makes it
casting
all.
of Keith David, who may have one of the greatest voices of all time as Childs, the chief mechanic. Wilford Brimley, really good as Blair, the senior biologist that goes a little wacky. Things I wasn't wild about, the Outpost is first introduced through a sign reading United States National Science Institute Station 4, but the base is always referred to as U.S. Outpost number 31. The initial gunman from the helicopter that has been brought up by Rockstar pointing a gun and yelling, it actually doesn't seem to elicit any sort of proper response from those at the base, who, by the way, there's tons of guns all over the base, but nobody thinks, hey, maybe with this person that's yelling and coming at us with a gun, we need to
The
have
guy that's
some
trying to
sort of
blow up that
resistance.
dog, let's adopt it.
He could have easily taken down the whole base right there, and then it would have been the end, But I really don't think they should have been as calm as they were. And for the film to work, there has to be a lot of potential hosts for the thing, but we really just get the most basic of character traits from a lot of these individuals located at the base being inhabited and killed. And I feel almost no emotional connection to any of them. I feel way more emotional connection to the dogs than pretty much all the human characters in the film. So that's my little bit of a gripe there with the film. Tyler, with it being your choice, you get the final word on the impact of this film and what it meant to you.
So this film is, one summer I went through like top 100 films on IMDb. This one came up. I absolutely loved it, and it stuck with me. I'm a big John Carpenter fan now because of it. It wasn't the original Halloween that got me into John Carpenter movies. It was The Thing. It's my favorite Kurt Russell movie. Like you mentioned, Keith David, incredible voice, incredible performance. Wilford Brimley as Blair. The ending where they decide that it's just futile to not trust each other and think that they're going to get backstabbed, and so let's just share a drink. That's one of the most impactful endings in film history to me, because you're just left wondering, well, what happened? Because the story is still clearly going. One of them may or may not be infected, and that's another great movie debate.
It is, for sure, and it has gone on and on and on, and there are sides that will never be swayed by the other, but let's just do a quick vote here. John, do you believe Childs at the end of this movie is, in fact, the thing?
Oh, 100%.
Rocky?
He literally disappears chasing it off, and then you see him afterwards, and he's like,
That's another thing. He wears a blue jacket when he leaves, and he comes back and his jacket's white. So the thing messed up and got the wrong jacket.
And all the jackets are reorganized.
I honestly don't even see how it's a debate, really.
There are some that want the happier ending, I think.
I can still understand, okay, we just accept it, and have the drink or whatever. But
I've seen theories that what Kurt Russell actually handed over was some type of gasoline to see if the thing would actually drink it.
If you're a thing, you don't have taste buds.
But if you go and you look at the label and you look at the fact that Russell was about to drink himself before handing the drink over, it doesn't really add up. It is a fun theory, though. The theory surrounding this movie is part of the fun experience, which is why this movie was really ahead of its time, which is probably what led to a lot of issues with it. Let's talk a little bit about the production. There had been several attempts to bring an adaptation of The Thing to cinemas throughout the 70s. The film we got in 1982 exists because of the success of Alien from 1979 and Halloween from 1978. Those two paths of what it did for Carpenter and what it did for sort of the monster creature feature. It was a perfect blend of getting this thing into production. Carpenter was reportedly back and forth on his commitment to directing The Thing, but eventually moved forward with the project, which went over budget with the amount of money that was allotted for its construction and creature effects. When it came to casting, Kurt Russell had worked with Carpenter twice before and was the last actor to be cast in June of 1981 as filming began in Alaska. Before Russell landed the lead role, the studio considered Christopher Walken, Jeff Bridges, and Nick Nolte. Sam Shepard showed interest but was never pursued. Tom Atkins and Jack Thompson were strongly considered early and late in the casting process, but the decision was made to go with Russell, who took about a year to grow his hair and beard out for the part. Kurt Russell's beard, John, I'm trying to find any positive you can say about this movie. Do you agree it's awesome cinematic beard?
That's a good beard.
I guess I probably can go through and find a lot better.
Win.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not really giving it much of a compliment. I could find 100 beards that are better in movie history. But I will say, watching this with my wife, she's like, nobody has hair like that anymore.
No.
Talking about it because it's like it's long but like poofy.
Yeah.
And so it's like
You look like one of the Bee Gees.
It's like that was a style. I feel like that's hairspray to make it, kind of poofy like that, like you see like in hairspray. I don't know. This is not. I mean, I pulled up his Wikipedia profile, and there's a thing from a few years ago that he has pretty much the same hair. It's just mostly gray now. So that's just his style that I guess.
I don't think John liked it.
I don't think he did. A shout out to cinematographer Dean Cundy, who doesn't get talked about enough as being one of the best. He's done tremendous work with not only John Carpenter, but also with Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis. His filmography as a cinematographer includes Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, the Back to the Future trilogy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jurassic Park, Apollo 13, and most notably, Garfield the movie in 2004.
That's what that has to be on your list. That's the first thing that should be on that list.
Yes. The Thing came out 2 weeks after E.T., which did not help Carpenter find a lot of support at the North American box office. In the stacked year of 1982, we saw such films as Raiders of the Lost Ark, Rocky III, Porky's, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Poltergeist, First Blood, Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian's a very different movie. Tootsie, Tron, and Blade Runner, which John mentioned, which was released on the same day, June 25th, 1982. All of the films I mentioned made more money, as The Thing was the 43rd highest grossing movie of 1982. Wow. It opened in 8th place with a little over $3 million and grossed a little under $20 million domestically. It later found an audience through home video and through TV, and has since become heralded by sci-fi and horror fans as being an all-time classic. That's how you found it, Tyler. That's how you fell in love with this, and that's why it ended up in the Dune popcorn bucket. And I think John holds you personally responsible for having to have seen this movie thanks to you.
That's fine. When I was actually reading about The Thing in preparation for today, about the release, it mentioned that fans of E.T. really didn't like this movie, and that hurt its performance because they wanted to go in and see aliens and have it be all positive and them be our friends, and then they see this and they don't want that.
John, isn't your favorite movie of all time E.T.?
Yes.
So I read that and I thought, I wonder how John felt about this one.
So that's all you need to know about The Thing.
E.T.'s been a classic from day one. This one had to find some weird cult audience later down the line.
Great Atari game.
Is this a movie that you...
So did Donnie Darko, John, one of your favorite movies.
Okay.
It's not one of my favorite movies. It's just probably my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
We're turning into the people that were in the movie The Thing, where we all start to hurl insults at each other and point fingers, and we don't need that. We need to all be trusting and cooperative and work together. Right, Rocky?
Let's do a blood test and we'll find out.
Okay.
I'll just say this about
that's
it.
what we'll do.
When you go to Universal, one thing my wife always makes me do when we go to Universal is the horror makeup show. And this is like half of the slideshow that they show going into it. That I always am just like, I don't want to watch this.
It's iconic,
Of all
though.
these like heads blowing up and everything.
Do
And
you
I
not
was like, I don't
respect
want to watch
the amount of effort that went into the practical effects of this film?
I
at least?
love the practical
Sure.
effects in this.
I mean, Cats had a lot of effort put into it too, but I mean, it wasn't well
Oh,
received.
come on.
This is turning violent. You chose violence
saying.
today, John. For somebody who's anti-violence in your cinema, you sure do choose it right here in our discussion.
Only with words.
Is this a movie you still appreciate all these years later? Let us know in the comment section below, and make sure you take a look at our title sponsor. John, that's MyBookie.
Yeah, this one was not going to win a lot of awards at the Oscars, but you can bet on it, MyBookie. It may have, honestly. I don't know. But you can go to mybookie.ag, use promo code next round. You see it right there on your screen. Use that, get a first deposit bonus on us. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with the friends at mybookie.ag.
That is going to do it for us. More retro trailer reactions to come. If you haven't, go ahead and check out some of our previous entries, like The Game from 1997 or Kindergarten Cop from 1990. We'll have a full season of retro trailer reactions for you right here on The Meltdown.